Hey everybody, it's Tiffany with Sassy and Self-Employed, where your only job is you. And I am here with Audrey today. She's here to share her story with you guys. And as you know, I like to bring on individuals to help empower and inspire anybody else that's out there that has a relatable story, to know that one, they're not alone, and two, that there is help, support, hope, and everything else in between out there for you. So Audrey is here today with me, and she's going to share her story about being raised in an unsafe and toxic environment, ill-equipped for children, and how it has impacted her decisions, thought processes, relationships in her adult life, and some of the things that she has experienced and how she's continued to grow and heal. So Audrey, I'm just going to flip it right over to you. Feel free to share your story, whatever it is that you feel comfortable sharing. I know this is new for you, so we are all here to empathize and be here to support you, and then we'll go from there.
So good. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I am happy to be here because if my story can help someone else, through their own journey, I'm really, really happy to be, a piece of that puzzle for them. I know listening to other stories of other people really helped me. So I kind of would like to pay that forward. Um, so I grew up in a home where my parents got divorced young. My father was in prison for several years, and his reasoning for going to prison was the catalyst for their divorce. Um, and then my mom, she was a young mom, so at 26 years old, she had three little bitty kids by her, three kids by herself that she, had to figure out how to raise. And frankly, she really wasn't equipped to handle that. So there was a lot of bad things that happened. I have memories of um of pulling her off of my sisters. I'm the oldest. I have memories of her throwing me against the wall whenever she was angry at me. I threatened once to call the police, to try to get some help for us. And she said, "Well, fine then, go ahead and do it." And I have this like really vivid memory of her running down the hallway after me to try to pull the phone away from me. Um, I have just so many memories of how she was cold and cruel and used my sisters and my desire to be loved and safe against us. There was one time where I was maybe 11 and I was playing outside. She wasn't home. I was home alone, responsible for my younger siblings. And I overheated in the summer heat, and the neighbor kid called 911, and so then they took me down to the hospital and by ambulance, and left my other two sisters home alone. At that point they would have been 7 and 4. Um and my mom, when she eventually showed up, I was scared, like I'm with all these people. I've never really been in an ER before. I didn't really know, what was going to happen. And I was so glad that maybe my mom was going to be there. And I went to give her a hug because, I was hoping she would help me with my fear and all of the things. And she just stood there stiff as a board and was like, "If you can give me a hug, you're not really that sick, are you? And you shouldn't have been here." And then she didn't talk to me for 3 days. So like that type of like mental um uh I guess play in a negative way.
Yeah.
That type of mental behavior was part of everything. Today I have a really, really, really difficult time in the kitchen because a lot of the negative memories that I have throughout my life were happened in the kitchen for various reasons. And so I have all these things I do now to help me through that process. But
Yeah, and
yeah, that's
I mean, you had mentioned, I wrote it down, that the desire to be loved being used against you. I can totally relate to that too. Having been raised by a narcissistic mother, she was also
Mhm,
very physically, emotionally, mentally, and always abusive.
mhm,
And I totally get that. You know, that ER story is very powerful. It's very powerful if people out there, can relate to that. I know that I definitely can because I started to, as a child, um, you know, realize that if I was sick or there was something wrong or injury or anything like that, that's when I
mhm.
was able to get attention. So I almost would do things on purpose. And whether the attention was good or bad, it
Sure.
if she showed up or if she yelled at me, at least it meant she cared, and that's how I
Mhm,
started to learn to receive love was by
mhm,
being, abused in one way or another. So that is very strong and powerful. And, like you said, like taking that into adulthood, there's things that we still have to process. And
mhm,
I'm kind of curious, you started to mention about the kitchen experience and things like that.
mhm.
What else in your adult life have you found have been triggering for you, and how do you address those triggers when you realize that they're coming up?
So for a really long time, I didn't understand that I even had triggers, to be honest. I didn't even understand um, how my reaction was the body remembering and not so much something that was happening in current day, but that was, you know, I was thrown into the past in my head, and I didn't even understand that that was happening. So honestly, the first step for me was realizing was even understanding that's the thing that could even happen to anyone to start with, and then understanding that it happens to me. Um, and because I would really, what started that is I have a daughter. She's now 6, but when she was younger, I thought my husband and I were having communication problems. So I said to him, "Look, I want to go see a therapist now because we still love each other right now. I don't want it to like be at the end. I want to go now because clearly there's something we're not on the same page on." So he was like, "All right, fine, we'll go." And so we went, and then I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I had had no idea that that was the case. Um, and so through that process for me was how I started understanding, when a trigger happens, what does a trigger look like? So for me, one of the triggers truly is just being in a kitchen. It's not so much like a commercial kitchen that doesn't trigger me so much, but like just a home kitchen in a space where you're supposed to be safe. Um, and um, I have to remind myself when that happens. So it's usually when I'm washing the dishes that I struggle with the most. And so when that happens, I have a series of things that I try. I have a variety of different playlists. So I try different playlists to see if the music helps distract my brain a little bit and helps center me to the present, because that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that I know that this is my kitchen, that I am safe in my kitchen. This is mine, and that no one else can take this away from me. And so music is a big piece of that for me. Sometimes it's headphones. So most of the time I play the music just on a little speaker or something, but sometimes it's really like all the other noise that might be going on. So if I either just put headphones in to dampen the noise around me, or I'll put headphones in to play the music so I'm totally immersed in the music more so. Some other things. This is a I have a necklace that has like a little like lava rock in it. And sometimes a smell will help me recenter me into the present. So I have 2 or 3 different smells that I like. One of them is like a peppermint, one is a citrus. And so I'll put essential oil on the little lava rock and put the necklace on my around my neck, and then it'll feel like I'm okay. This I'm centered now. This is I'm in the present. And for the kitchen, the third thing, that I had a meditation once that was really powerful for me. And um in the meditation, I when I got into meditation, the I was in a space where I'm like asking for help. Like I want help with figuring out how to deal with manage my kitchen issue for myself. And sometimes things that show up in meditation for me are um more like symbols or just like in this case this was Hestia, the Greek goddess of the hearth, showed up. And it's more like a like she is it's easy to recognize like what she's supposed to embody because so when something like that shows up, it's more like a symbolism. So she shows up and I asked her like, why didn't you keep me safe? Why didn't you save me? And she said, oh, I did keep you safe. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do now? And then I look up and there's all these like little trindles going from my head to the clouds, to dark clouds that are above us in the kitchen that we're in. And it's all the bad memories that I have. And so then she takes off her apron and cuts the strings to the bad memories and puts the apron over my head, and ties it around my waist. And the meditation continues on. But because of that symbolism, like I actually wear an apron almost every day when I'm in the kitchen now. And it helps me remember that this is mine, that I can cut those strings. I don't have to have them connected to me still.
I love that. That's super powerful. I love that. And it sounds like you kind of go down through the Rolodex of,
Mhm.
when people are anxious, you're supposed to stop and help yourself be present by grounding. What do you see? What do you taste? What do you smell?
Mhm.
So on and so forth. So I don't know if that was intentional, but you definitely have it. So you check the
Yeah,
box.
no, I mean a little bit.
Yeah, definitely check the boxes. And that's important for, people out there to realize. I mean, sometimes the answer isn't as obvious for what you can do in
Mhm.
those moments when you feel those triggers for what is right and what is going to work
Yeah.
for you. There's no book on this. There's no
No.
one right way, and everybody has their own ways. And I don't know,
Mhm.
myself as a coach or a therapist would say, hey, Audrey, because of that meditation, maybe you should wear an apron in the kitchen, and that will bring you back
Yeah.
to that moment. Sometimes we just have to pause, right, and give ourselves
Mhm.
grace and give ourselves that time and create space for ourselves to say,
Mhm.
you said, recognize, hey, these are triggers. I'm being triggered. Something is happening to me that is not, I hate to use the word normal, but is not normal. Even if it's normal for me, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
these things are stemming from something that is in the past, and then realizing, when you recognize those situations, those moments, those words, anything, the environment in your case, that it is in fact an opportunity. That is your subconscious talking to you and saying, hey, this isn't something that you deserve to carry through life anymore, and here
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
an opportunity for you to regain control and rewrite your story and take your power back. And it's so powerful to be able to recognize those moments and not sit in that, which is really difficult, but to not sit in that victim mindset. Here we go
Yeah.
again. Or, oh gosh, I
Yep.
can't do this. And thanks, mom, like all the things that
Yeah.
that we
What?
spinning in our,
Yeah. That's definitely crossed my mind before.
yeah, yeah. But but to take those moments and realize that things aren't happening to you, they're happening for
Yeah.
you. And that second of realization is that moment where you can really, like,
Mhm.
take back that power and find what works for you, how
Mhm.
you ground yourself back into that present moment. And I would love to hear any other things that you've done to heal. Maybe not in those moments where you're triggered, but just any ongoing, self-care or maintenance or anything
Mhm.
you have been able to apply to your life that has really helped you heal and grow and move forward.
Sure. Um, a lot of times, one of the questions that I have to remember to ask myself, honestly, is I have to ask myself if I've eaten, because sometimes I'll not realize how much time has passed since the last time I've eaten, because I was diagnosed with ADHD
Yeah.
3 years ago. And you just get stuck in a hyper focus, and The world continues on around you, but you're working on whatever it is that's exciting for you, and and then so sometimes I'll notice that I'm triggered, but wait a minute. Is the solve something as simple as, going to go get some lunch? Sometimes that really is the solve, but not always, of course. I have like I in my kitchen, because the kitchen is where my, biggest challenges for triggers. I actually have like a sheet that I wrote all these things down on that I try whenever I feel triggered, because personally, when I'm in a trigger, I can't remember any of the things that help me. Maybe I'll remember one, maybe two. Um, but I have like a collection now of, things that I know help me. And I don't always, in the moment, I don't always remember them all. It's because I'm too overwhelmed, I'm too amped, the energy's too high. I'm trying to take deep breaths, I'm trying to calm down, but sometimes I just can't think clearly enough to actually come up with all the other things that actually would help me.
Right.
So I have this list. I have, how many did I eat? Did I do take Ritalin for my ADHD. So did I take my medication that morning? Did I? For me, the closer I get to my cycle, the harder it is for me. So I ask myself what day of the month it is. Even if that doesn't change anything about how I feel in that moment, for me, sometimes that makes me go, oh, okay, my period is supposed to start in 4 days. Okay, I'm in that part of my cycle. That makes sense that I am feeling a little bit worse than maybe I would. And for some reason, just knowing and understanding that mental um that's a little bit more challenging around that time of the month actually settles me. Just like, oh, okay, this is annoying. I don't really want to feel this way right now, but it's gonna be better here in a couple days when I start my period.
Right.
And then the music is on there, the headphones are on there. Sometimes it's calling someone to talk, not even necessarily about what was in my head, but just I am wanting to wash the dishes and I really want to get them done. And just chatting with someone on the phone while I do it is really nice. The smell I talked about. I write poems. I don't do anything with them, but but I write them because it helps me sometimes get the thoughts out of my head.
Right.
Um, Sometimes I make myself a hot tea or a hot chocolate. And the big one that I have to remind myself that's okay, which is, to be honest with you, I still struggle with. Um, I have to remind myself that it's okay to walk away.
Yeah.
It's okay to leave the room. It's okay to choose to do it later. And I always feel so guilty when I reach that point when that's the only one left, because I feel like, oh, but I wanted to get this done, this was my goal for the day, right? Like I had these things that I wanted to get done, and I have to remind myself that I don't need to feel guilty about that. It
Right.
is just as important to know that you are able to walk away and to do it as it is to try and finish the thing, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and ADHD is a part of that too, right? Because
Yeah,
we feel
okay.
we feel like we always gotta be doing the things.
I
Um,
know.
and it fascinates me. I have ADHD also, so I can
Mhm.
definitely relate to almost everything that you just mentioned there. But it fascinates me of how many individuals in our adulthood have been diagnosed with that also have a
Mm,
traumatic past. Um,
yeah.
how much time that we spend in our heads as children
Mhm,
that I
mhm.
I always refer to it as the did, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to explain it to somebody like what's going on in my head is did I don't
Mhm,
know how else to
mhm.
so writing the list, I think, is a fantastic tip. As find yourself in those moments and hey, this worked to add it to that list, especially if you're struggling with that mind racing, ADHD or not. When you're
Yeah.
in that moment, you're in a heightened period of emotion, mentally and
Mhm.
physically, and the clarity is not always there. So to have
Yeah.
that go to, and all you have to remember is that you have that list,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
what's on it, just that you have it and where it's at. Um,
Mhm.
go through and kind of, check it off. And like we talked about earlier, there's things that are going to work for certain people that don't work for
Hmm.
other people. And that's
Hmm.
also within ourselves, a certain
Yeah.
trigger. The music might work one day and it
Yes.
might not work another day. So to
Hmm.
have some of those, extra go-to buffers, to
Hmm.
kind of go down the list and see what
Yeah.
helps. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there, Audrey, anything else that you would like to share? Anything else that you think would be important for the listeners to know as we wrap up here?
Um, the biggest thing I would say is just don't give up. I know that sounds like such a cliche, but just keep trying the things. And if something doesn't work for you, that's okay. It's all right. Try another one. And like, to me, like, it's okay that to try another one the same day. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just keep trying to protect yourself and to find the things that work for you. And all these challenges and think, processing that has to be done doesn't mean that you can't also still live a full life. I am a mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom the last few years. I serve on a board of directors for a local nonprofit. I'm a committee chair in my township for a park exploration committee. I run a very small ADHD accountability group where we meet twice a week. I run a farm to table Facebook group for my county to connect farmers and food artisans with the community. And something I'm super excited about is I'm in the process of starting an outdoor based like nature elementary school here in my town. So yeah, I've got this difficult past and it didn't set me up for success at all. I've often felt so far behind my peers. But that doesn't mean that you can't still have a full life, whatever that definition means to you. It doesn't have to look like mine. It has to look like whatever it means for you. So just don't give up.
I love that. And you're definitely keeping yourself busy, contributing back out to the community, learning
Mhm.
from, it's amazing how many ways that we have the opportunity to realize and remember the things that we've been through in our past don't define us.
Mhm.
If anything, we've learned a whole heck of a lot of what not to do. Um,
Yeah.
so, it starts with us. Yes, living a full and complete life, it's about just being mindful and again, trying to stay out of that victim mindset and realizing that it can end with you. It
Mhm.
have to continue the cycle. And
Yep.
there is support out there. And you are, like you said, I mean, you're gonna have those days where you're just like, what the heck,
Mhm.
and feel like you can't go on. But those moments aren't defining either. They're not the end all be all of who you are as a person or what your life can look like. So
Mhm.
like Audrey said, guys, just keep going. You're not alone out there. There's whether people talk about it or not, and have the bravery that Audrey does here today to share their story. There are groups out there. There's coaches
Mhm.
like myself out there. There's therapists. There's
Mhm.
journaling, like Audrey said. Writing poems. You don't have to do anything with them, but it is a way to cope and help you process the feelings and the emotions and the thoughts that you're experiencing now present day, and just take those moments to go back into your past when you do find yourself triggered, realize where it rooted from, and then step back into your adult self and remind yourself. Audrey mentioned safety a couple times, so just remind yourself and remind your own inner child that you are in fact safe,
Mhm.
and work on that reparenting, because again, it can end with us. It doesn't have to continue that cycle, and you are loved and you are supported, and hopefully this episode here with Audrey has helped empower you guys and inspire you guys. If there's anything that you would like to participate in, that Audrey, definitely, like I said, is very active in the community. If
Mhm.
anything that you would like to connect with her with, I can put her details in the show notes here. But for now, Audrey, I want to thank you so much for finding the bravery and coming here on this podcast here with me today and sharing your story, because my goal is if we can change one life, then we have made a difference. So thank you guys out there for listening. Thank you, Audrey. And we are signing off.